welcome to a brand new episode of Nerds United on the Jittery Monkey Podcast Network. And if you're seeing this, Nerds United on YouTube. My name is Greg Mahochko, and my guest, this very special episode, he and I go way, way back. He is, well, I'm going to let him explain. He's got a lot of ands in his resume and in his history, and we're going to talk about a lot of them and why we're here. His name is John Garrett. Hello, John.
Hey, thanks so much, Greg, for having me on. It's good to chat with you again. This is awesome.
Let's lay a little bit of foundation because I was doing something. I'm not trying to pat myself on the back. By the way, I joked about it with Mike. I'm going all out for a professional guest.
Right. Right.
And the best part is this is considered a Zoom meeting, and I don't have to disclose if I'm wearing pants.
Right. No, neither of us. It doesn't matter. It's all good. It's all good.
Years ago, I was doing something in a terrestrial radio in my small town that nobody else was doing. And that was like having guests on, instead of reading the weather report and the community calendar and telling what day bingo is this week, which, by the way, it was always Thursday night.
Right.
I had guests on, and I had comedians. I had bands from Southern Illinois, but my first guest was this guy right here, John Garrett, a comedian. And now we can add, among the many ands on his resume, as I mentioned, author. He is the author of the book coming out on September 15th?
15, yep, absolutely. Nailed it.
It's called What's Your And? John...
Yeah. Got a copy here for the YouTube types. There you go. Right. The real book.
And I should say, because my preview copy is digital, here's my copy.
Right. There you go. There you go.
So let's talk because, people who know you have followed your career, from our hometown. By the way, that's right. We share the same hometown. And bagged groceries at the same grocery store. But give the John Garrett for idiots version of where you were and how you got to where you are.
Sure, yeah. So New Baden, Illinois, went to Westland High School, and then go Warriors, and then went to the University of Notre Dame, graduated from there with a degree in accounting, went to PricewaterhouseCoopers, worked there, was on the largest financial services client they had, and then left and went to pharma and big pharma, and then a hospital network. And most of that leaving PwC was due to having a little bit of a hobby of doing stand-up comedy. And I was starting to get paid, starting to travel a bit doing it. And then in May of 2005, ended up leaving corporate altogether to do stand-up full-time. And since then, moved to New York City, was there for about 9.5 years. Wrote 2 Emmy-nominated award shows, have a comedy album on SiriusXM Pandora, and done a lot of cool stuff. And now, in the last 6 years, it's kind of marrying the two together. So it's the corporate CPA John and the comedian John. So it's mostly speaking at conferences, doing opening keynotes, emceeing those, and then now with the book, and also consulting, bringing a unique culture to these corporate worlds of we all have these outside of work hobbies and passions like I did with my stand-up, and I was an accountant and a comedian. It's not an or, it's you can be both. And are you getting paid to do it? It doesn't matter. It's something you enjoy. So that's what it's all about. That's what What's Your And's all about. And this is the shortest episode of Greg's podcast ever. And good night. No, I'm kidding. No.
There are listeners out there who wish that was the end. Some of our fellow podcasters over at jitterymonkey.com usually give Mike my co-host of the year and I a lot of crap, saying, you guys talk for a whole hour. That's a long time. I'm like, do you listen to podcasts?
Right. I mean, there's some of those that are stories that go on for hours. The longest single episode of a podcast I remember listening to, and I'm going to be off within 30 minutes or so, but I want to say it was a wrestling podcast because, that was one of my, passions when I was younger. And it was about Shawn Michaels, the Heartbreak Kid. And that, because it was a guy who has been around for most of this wrestler's career, the show went on for 4.5 or 5 hours, one episode. Wow.
And And it's nuts. So I figure an hour-ish, an hour and change is okay.
Right.
So, Chad.
Right. I'm not a wrestler either, so, we're all good. Like, yeah, exactly. But that's the quick and dirty, man. So, yeah, I'm all yours.
And you also started a podcast several years ago that from what I was in reading, What's Your And, available September 15th, you started bringing some of those stories and really incorporating some of those stories from some of your guests into your book.
Yeah, well, I mean, the podcast, it's called What's Your And I started it because I was at a conference speaking, and I was getting ready to go on stage, and about 900 people. It's huge. And I'm getting mic'd up, and the event planner, meeting professional, comes up, and she says, "Hey, do you know this guy's name?" And I was like, "I've never heard that name in my life." And and she's like, and I go, "Can it wait?" Like, I'm getting ready to go on stage. And she said, "Oh, well, he knows you. He saw all the speakers." And right away said, "I know John Garrett. That's the guy who did Comedy at Night." And I was like, wow, that's crazy. So then I'm on stage. And so the whole time I'm speaking to this group of 900, in the back of my mind is literally like, who the hell is this Rain Man? And why does he remember me? And is he going to like Nancy Kerrigan run and whack me on the kneecaps while I'm on stage? Like, what's going on? And so I get on stage and I do some research, and he was in my first PwC office in St. Louis, actually. And he was in the tax department, and I never once went to that floor. And I never once did taxes. I never once really hung out with anyone that was into. So I never even met this guy, let alone worked with him. And yet 12 years later, he remembered me. And he didn't remember me for anything work related. He remembered me for this outside of work hobby or interest that I had. And so I thought, well, maybe am I the only one? And in talking to some people, I realized, no, I'm not the only one. Actually, we're the norm. And so I did my own research. It's 92% of us have an outside of work interest. The other 8%, I don't know if they're engineers or where they are, but like the other 8% just love work, and God bless them. But I think it's cool that we all get to hear what our passions are. Because at work, it's not always encouraged to share those, or depending on where you are, it's deemed unprofessional, which is ridiculous, that you're a multidimensional person. And so let's have a podcast dedicated to that, dedicated to wrestling. Let's talk wrestling. Let's talk comic books. Let's talk video games. Let's talk, is that your job? No, it doesn't matter. It's what you enjoy.
I know my first day at my current job, which was 2.5-3 months ago, I had to introduce myself. It happened that they were doing their normal agency meeting, and they were saying, "All right, Greg, real quick, come over here, introduce yourself." Because of the nature of the agency, everybody spread out, so half of them were clicking in through Skype and such, and
Sure.
So it was like who you are, your in the family, wife, kid, dog, things like that, where you came from, and your hobbies. And I was like, I have 3 podcasts. And they said, "Oh, what are they about?" And I said, "Oh, one's about, comics and, fandom, aka Nerd United right here. The other's about the Nebraska Cornhuskers, because I'm a Husker fan. And the other is because I am often guilty of talking too much. The other one's called The Power Half Hour. And no matter what, that episode between myself and Chad ends at 30 minutes and 0 seconds.
There you go. That's awesome. Mid-sentence clip.
Right. And it's happened. It has happened. Or usually Chad will be like, "Greg, I really want to know more, but we're out of time."
There you go. Yeah, but I mean, you have other dimensions to who you are, and it actually makes you better at your job, no matter what your job is. From all the research that I've done, plus with Duke University has a study, and Northwestern University has a study that kind of dovetails with what I'm doing, and so it's just cool to know that these aren't distractions; they're actually enhancers.
And you find somebody in that office, like you mentioned, who might have, a commonality, I might share that interest, be it, comics or Star Wars or biking or comedy, and
all the things. Yeah.
There's anything. It could be Harry Potter. Not that there's anything wrong with Harry Potter. That's just an example I chose.
Totally. It could be making kombucha. It could be like, whatever you love to do, a 5K walk for like.
What the hell's, was it kombucha?
Kombucha? Oh yeah, man.
Not familiar.
Yeah, you got to get out of New Baden more, man. It's like, I know you're not still there. I know. Like, I just tease, man. No, but it's Yeah, it's a drink. It's like fermented tea, and there's a lady in Atlanta who makes it for fun, and you can flavor it, and then it can also have an alcoholic level to it as well, but that's only if you let it go too long. But yeah, I learned all about it. And yeah,
and microbrewing.
Yeah, that same thing, except for this is more like a breakfast drink. So like there's that.
Yeah, who doesn't like eggs, bacon, and booze?
Right? I mean, it seems like it should all go together, but
and let's face it, today we're recording, like, this is going to drop middle of the week, but we're recording this on Saturday, September 5th, which should be the first day of the college football season. And go ahead.
Yeah. Well, there were games on. I watched. Yeah. Just not your Huskers because you joined the wrong conference. That's the problem.
All right, but let's be fair.
As a Notre Dame alum, suddenly being not in a conference is a really good thing. Like,
let's be fair. You only joined Notre Dame only joined a conference because they had to.
Well, and it's just for this year, and then we're out. It was really funny on their social media. They actually, because they had to put ACC on their field, and so they actually they showed it, and they said, looks cute, might delete after a year. It's like, yep. January 1st.
If it makes you feel any better, until Nebraska starts playing, go Irish.
Oh, hey, there you go. All right. Yeah. I mean, I think Nebraska and Notre Dame have played a handful of times, and it's been a long time since they have. So we got Eric Crouch a Heisman, so you're welcome. And then, and then since then, nothing. So yeah, there's no rivalry there. So
but someday I feel like those are two programs back on the ascent, and I feel like we should have some good games between them.
Yeah. No, absolutely. No, college football is my end for sure. So that and ice cream, because you can do them both at the same time. How good is that? Like,
is there anything you can't do with ice cream at the same time in conjunction?
Well, I'm not sure how long a list you want to do, but like skydive would probably be high on the list. And
I'm sure there's somebody who's tried it, right? Skydiving and ice cream.
Yeah. Right.
Ice cream.
They're probably listening right now. Like, it's.
Hey, if that's you, leave a comment.
There you go.
If you have eaten ice cream while skydiving, we want to hear. John wants you on his podcast, and so do I.
There you go. There's your and. You got two ands. There we go. Perfect.
So tell me about What's Your And, the book, because as I mentioned, a lot of it fed from the podcast. But as far as, as you mentioned, there's research involved, which is always good. You always want, facts to back up your claims. So tell me just about, like the research aspect and maybe how long you've been working on the book.
Sure. Yeah. Well, it was kind of an idea about 5 years ago, and then started dedicating time to about 2 years ago to intentionally writing and editing. And it is a journey. Like, it is really hard to write a book that's good. And so about 2 years ago, I flew out a content editor, because people are like, oh, I wrote a book in 3 weeks. It's like, well, does it suck? I mean, like, we could all do that, but it's it's 200 pages. It's all micro chapters. I wanted it to be easily digestible, easily readable. It's very conversational style, very casual tone to it. It's like you and me hanging out talking. And there's no fluff. It's just, here's the meat. Boom, here it is. And and so I flew a content editor out here about 2 years ago, and from Philly, and he and I sat in a conference room downtown Denver, where I live, for 4.5 days, 8-hour days, of just flushing out, what is the book, what's it about, who's it for, what's the tone, what's the message, what's it look like, what's the structure. Insane. And then it was me writing for like a year and a half, and then it was he and I editing and polishing it up, getting it better, and then it was getting it to the publisher, and then them 3 rounds of copywriting and 3 more rounds of proofreading. And it's intense, man. And then, when it comes to a book, where's the page numbers go? What font is it? What, all these different things. And so I'm really proud of it. I think it's really, really good. It's from the feedback that I've gotten so far, and people can pre-order the book now on Amazon. You can go to what'syourand.com and it'll come out on the 15th, like Greg said. But I'm just really proud of it. And the feedback has been, I'm not a reader, but I just read this whole book and it's fantastic. And because it's one of those where, because it's those micro chapters, you don't realize, oh, I'm already halfway through, or, oh, I just finished this book. And it's 200 pages, like I said, so it's long enough to where it's a legit book, but it's not, well, because there are books out there that are, 30 pages and then whatever. And it's,
those are pamphlets.
Yes, exactly. And, good for them, but this is, it's long enough. It's just long enough. It's long enough to where you think differently and you're learning things. But on the flip side, it's not cumbersome to read where you're not actually going to finish it. Because that's really the big thing. I mean, I have a bookshelf full of books with bookmarks in them that I'm never going to finish, so what's the point? Like if I'm going to write this, I want you to read it.
Regular listeners of Nerds United know that I have upstairs what's called the comic book room.
Okay.
And it is in the process. Look, it's been in the process of being organized for 3 years.
Oh, wow.
But I rarely have. Well, by that I say, one day I said, I'm going to organize all of these comic books, bag them, board them, box them, etc. And then I spread them all out on the floor. And then I got called away.
Right.
I think I've actually spent 4 days in there in the last 3 weeks.
That's awesome.
But we'll see who's paying attention. And you know this. My co-host of the year, Mike, knows this. But this is the first time I'm saying this on the podcast, is that we're expanding the family in the spring. And so my wife says, You need to clear out the comic book room because otherwise we got no place to put the baby.
Wow. Okay.
Which makes sense because we have a 3-bedroom house and that's the 3rd bedroom and we already have one son. So
that would make sense. Right.
So I've got a deadline. I've just got but so so I've got a lot of unread books and a lot of partially read books, much like you, but I sat down to read What's Your And as I was aiding my son in going to sleep. And next thing I know, I'm 45 pages in. He fell asleep, and so I got to, skate off. But you're right; it goes quick. But there's also some really great content in there. And my question for you is, since you're pulling a lot of these quotes and stories from some of your podcast guests, did that take an extra amount of time, or did you have kind of in mind who whose experiences you were going to pull for the book?
Yeah, well, I mean, I appreciate you saying those kind words about the book, as you're reading it. As far as the quotes went, a lot of my research in the last 2 years, I've spoken in front of 10,000 people at events and conferences. And so delivering the message for the last couple of years, really being able to hone it in as to what it is that resonates with people and what's legit, combined with doing my homework, doing my own research, but also interviewing over 300 plus people, some for the podcast, some not, is where a lot of that I can stand with both feet on firm ground and be like, no, this is legit. This is the real thing. And so I wrote the book, and then the publisher said, you have all of these podcast episodes. They're really fascinating. And then my content editor said, yeah, well, do you have any of them transcribed? Yeah, all of them. And he said, what? And he said, this is a gold mine. This is amazing, because then it turns into a book where I'm telling you things and it's my voice. But then we just grabbed quotes that supported what I had already written. So hear it in another person's words. And some of them are lawyers, some are accountants, some are consultants, some are engineers, people from the UK, Canada, US, Australia. And so a variety of white collar nerd jobs, if you will, but from all over the world. And so you can just get to hear in their own words. So really, I wrote the book, and then at the end, we grabbed pull quotes from the transcripts and made sure, and then we had 41 different people that are quoted in the book to help support that. So it just gives a different dimension to it as you're reading it.
It does seem to me in reading it and then listening to you as you describe how you're selecting various individuals, various guests, and pulling their quotes, but it gives them maybe a little bit of ownership in it as well in the project, because as you said, you're still writing the book, but they have a little bit of a voice as well.
Oh, for sure. And the way I look at this is, I wrote the book, but this is our message. Like it's not my thing. It's not my message. It's our message. We all have these outside of work hobbies and interests. And for so long, we've been shamed and bullied into thinking that if we have these, then we're not very good at our job or not very dedicated to our careers. And in actuality, it's the opposite. Like if you have outside of work hobbies and interests, you're the norm. You're the stereotype. I mean, you're part of 92%. So, it's our message, and it's our movement of sorts to be like, this is how work culture should be. They should be able to talk about and share and find out about each other, with your outside of work interests. Like who's Greg Mahachko for real? Like your technical skills are good because everyone who works here has technical skills that are good. But you're, doing a podcast, you're interested in wrestling and comic books. That's totally different than someone else who loves, some cars and doing mechanic type work or whatever on the side. It's just, or somebody that likes puzzles, or somebody that, played professional sports for a year or two, or like whatever, there's cool people all around us, and we just don't ask.
As you mentioned, the statistic, 92% of people have some interest outside of, be it the cubicle or the office or, let's just say work. In any of your research, were you ever able to find, easy for me to say, maybe where the outside interest in the workplace really started to be considered a negative factor?
That's the thing is, most of the time, I've never heard where, if you show up at work and you're like, hey, I like Nebraska football and have a podcast, and it never once has someone been, you're fired. Like that doesn't happen. But in our brains, we build it up to be where people are judging. And there was actually Amy Hancock in Australia. She's a model, like a professional model, and she's also a chemical engineer. So she has to, on occasion, go to oil rigs in the middle of the ocean in Australia. And so there's dudes that are on the oil rig that haven't been off this oil rig in months. So she shows up, and she never once told anyone that she was a model because she didn't want people to judge her. Well, then, after a year or so, people Googled it, and then they found her, and then they asked, and she's like, yeah, that's what I do. And then everybody thought it was awesome. She was scared to share that, and it's exhausting to play a part, because it's like, well, who did I tell? Who didn't I tell? Like, what did I say? What haven't I said? Like, and it's just like, and that's what's really important in the book early on is I define, because a lot of people think it's unprofessional. And right. I had a person that worked in another department who thought that me doing stand-up comedy at night was unprofessional because I had something else besides work. And as long as it doesn't inhibit your ability to do your work or inhibit someone else's ability to do their work, then who cares? Who cares what happens at 5 o'clock and you leave and go home? If it's legal and it's provided it's legal and it's then who cares? And because it's giving you some expertise that you can bring to work. And that's the thing is we have this huge untapped well of expertise around us that companies and organizations don't even think about. If you doing a podcast, interviewing people, if it comes time that somebody needs to interview someone important, well, maybe that should be you because you're out here exercising this. Well, maybe. If it's 30 minutes or less, no, but you're exercising this muscle outside of the office. So then when it comes time to use it at work, boom, I got this. I've been doing this for years.
And I think you have made a really good or had a really strong example in the book about the opera singer who was never asked to do presentations in the office, and they often, according to the story, they often asked the jigsaw puzzle, master, and who, probably very competent, obviously very competent in the in the technical aspect of the job, but maybe not the strongest in front of people.
Yeah, exactly. Or community theater, if you're in a band or whatever, you should be the one that's chosen. But instead, they choose who's been here longest. Well, that person may or may not be the best person to deliver in front of an audience. And so, like, there's skills that people have, and so I think it helps us expand our definition of expertise to where, there's more to us than just those technical skills, because everyone else in the department has the exact same technical skills.
And it's we are a more fully formed individual when we're able to bring those outside experiences. I don't want to say opinions, but our outside selves into
Our perspectives.
Exactly, yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
But like you said, earlier, we often, and I guess this was my mistake on the question. You answered it right, but in my mind, I reworded the question. It's often the negative internal perception. We think, oh, maybe they'll think less of me, or maybe they won't care about that I'm a model or a podcaster or a ice cream eating skydiver type of thing.
Right. There you go. But people do, because we're not in 7th grade anymore, where they're going to make fun of you and shove you in a locker. Like, they're going to be like, wow, that's awesome. And if they don't, then that's on them. And the one big thing that's come up in interviewing so many people is people are really hesitant to give themselves a label. Like you calling yourself, a podcaster or a podcast host, or someone calling themselves a runner if they're not super proud of their time, or a painter, but my paintings aren't hanging in a gallery or no one's bought them. Who cares? Who cares? Like, I mean, it doesn't matter. Like, so the phrase should be, I enjoy hosting a podcast. I enjoy running. I enjoy painting. Then it doesn't matter if anyone buys your painting or if anyone asks about your time, because I don't care. I'm doing it for me, and that's why I'm doing it. And so, but the cool thing is in the work setting, it's attracting and retaining talent. If you can build your culture around that, and you're going to create more sticky relationships with coworkers, so turnover's lower, engagement's higher. Then when it comes to clients, you're going to have better relationships there, and just overall, just good things happen when you focus on this part of the people around you.
I'm really, obviously, you and I go way back, so I was on board from day one. And then in reading the book, the more I read, the more I realized that crap, in the best part of crap. It's this is something that I can use in my work. I can take what's in the book and use it to better myself, hopefully make myself more successful. Because I might deal with clients but I might meet clients who are Husker fans or Courage or things like that. So it's
totally
this book is so beneficial, and it doesn't matter what line of work you do.
Yeah, well, thank you, man. That means so much, because, most of my space is in that white collar nerd kind of world, professional services, bankers, insurance, accountants, lawyers, consultants, that world, engineers. But I've heard from teachers that are on the launch team that have read it, and they're like, oh my gosh, totally. Like, the education system needs to read this fast. Like, they're trying to figure out ways to sneak it onto their principal's desk. And I'm like, well,
the education system needs to read a lot of things.
Well, yeah, that's true. But I was like, the one I gave you is signed. So, get Amazon to hook you up with another one and then mysteriously airdrop it to the school. But, it really does apply to most jobs. It's just at the very least, it makes you relatable. And especially if you're in a leadership position or in a client-facing position, being relatable is huge. Just huge. If you're a manager or an executive at a company and, people are scared of you and they're scared of your title. And if you can be vulnerable and a little bit human, then that just makes you a regular person. So instead of being, senior manager, it's like, well, just go talk to Greg. He's right there. He's a regular dude that likes comic books. And Husker football, even though they're not playing this year. So, like, all that stuff.
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay.
I keep hearing rumblings about a vote. I don't believe is going to happen.
Right. Michigan's, I'm not even joking. University of Michigan's the one that's kiboshing all of it, which is great because everyone hates them anyway. So
the good news is, and this is for everybody who's fans of any Power Five, could be contending for a championship, is you can't have the playoffs without the Big Ten. I mean,
they've done it several years before, Greg. It's happened so many times.
That's not funny. That's hilarious.
And true. You don't even have to be a Big Ten champion. It doesn't even matter. It's no, but it's. I'm just happy that college football is happening, just in general. So yeah.
I don't take this as an oversimplification of what's your end, but I feel like perhaps a running theme throughout is don't be afraid to be yourself in the office setting.
Yeah. No, that's not oversimplified at all. And the message itself is simple, but not easy, which I've found is a lot of people, they hear it and they're energized by it and they think it's great. But they don't know how to apply it, which is where I come in with the next step of kind of the consulting piece of it is work with your organization to implement this and really build that culture around that, what I refer to as the culture core. But yeah, it's bringing yourself, but it's important that it's not the part of yourself that inhibits you or others' ability to do their work. That's always important to do. And it's also important that it's not quit your job and follow your dreams. It's not that at all. It's the exact opposite of that. It's actually keep your job, and it's an and. Like I said earlier, it's not an or. It's an and keep it as a hobby because let's face it, you're probably not that good at it to make a living. And that's fine because you're not supposed to be because you have a living over here, but have these hobbies, have these interests and bring them to work.
I'm going to ask you, which do you prefer, the peanut butter or the jelly?
Oh, wow. That's a really deep question. Oh, wow. That's hard because I don't know. I didn't know you could have them separate. I didn't know. I was just thinking the peanut butter is one, be it the bill-paying job or the hobby, and the jelly is the other. Jelly. Okay. Now I see where you're going. But peanut butter's crunchy. That's I like that.
If you like the crunchy peanut butter.
Yeah, and if you don't, you're an ISIS. I don't know what your problem is. Who doesn't like crunchy peanut butter?
Okay, so while we're
I'm kidding.
Off the rails, I love crunchy peanut butter. However, crunchy peanut butter will rip the crap out of your bread.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, you got to room temperature it, right?
Yeah.
Come on.
Obviously.
Yeah. I mean, all those days at the IGA, come on now. Remember on Sunday mornings when we would accidentally bust open a box of donuts every Sunday morning?
It's funny how that coincidentally happened every Sunday, 9:00.
Exactly.
Right after church, when you're first one through the door. Sorry, John. Yep. Sorry, Al.
Yeah, it's all right.
Hey, donuts! Look, everybody.
He's like, rah, rah, rah. He's like, no, that was awesome. That was the best job ever, for sure.
It was. Sure. And you know what I liked most about that job? I was living at home, so I didn't have other responsibilities.
Oh, yeah. There you go. Yeah. And you know what's hilarious about that job now that I think about it? I lived 7 blocks from the IGA, and yet I drove every day. It's you could have just walked or rode your bike. No, I drove.
What are you going to do? Walk or ride your bike, come in all sweaty, or even worse, be working all day and then have to walk or ride your bike back?
7 blocks?
Come on.
7 blocks sweaty? I lived in New York City for 10 years. I walked, 30 blocks a day just on accident, just getting to the train, getting around. I look back on that and I just laugh of how lazy I was. You could see it almost.
We also we have to give insight to our small town in New Baden, Illinois, where it's not one block's not your traditional city block. It's there's a house that faces north and a house that faces south, and the road is the block.
Right, so pretty much. Yeah, it's
like the length of a football field and a half.
Right. Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much. It's like, yeah, it's like a 200-yard dash, and then I would have been there, like, or a walk, like even. But yeah, no, it was, yeah. So I don't know. I don't know why I got off on that tangent. My apologies.
Peanut butter.
Just completely,
it's my fault.
Yeah, it was the peanut butter. That's what it is. It just takes me back to the grocery stores because facing the shelves, you got to like bring it all forward there. It's like, it's a beautiful sight.
Remember that choosy moms choose Jif, but healthy moms choose Smucker's natural peanut butter.
There you go. That seems like we're sponsored now.
Well, we are. As I told you, we are. I told you that, like, oh, crap, I forgot we said 8 Central. I'll be down in 10 minutes after I shave. Well, thanks to the good people at manscaped.com, you too can have smooth – never mind.
That's unbelievable.
Not an actual sponsor, but it should be.
Right. That's unbelievable. That's awesome.
John, I appreciate all of your time. You're always great, and you're always welcome back on Nerds United or any of my podcasts. You just say, hey,
well, thanks, Greg.
I want to come in and talk about the book or talk about anything that's going on. Are you all doing okay out in Colorado with all the smoke?
Yeah, I mean, a couple of weeks ago it was pretty intense as far as the smoke and stuff coming through, but yeah, now it seems to be pretty clear for the most part. We can see the mountains again, which is nice. But I think the fires are still happening, but they're further away. But I think there are 4 pretty big fires in Colorado right now, which is crazy.
I hate to make a joke about this because you're also the comedian, but I have a friend in western Nebraska who, feared that he was getting some of the smoke. Their community was getting some of the smoke in. I said, is it the fires or the weed?
Right. Which Colorado smoke is it?
Right.
Yeah. Well, when you can't see the mountains, that's when it's the fires. Like that's the other one. Yeah. Plus it's, yeah, I mean, there were times where, I mean, here in Denver, I went outside and I thought the neighbor's house was on fire. I mean, it smelled like a campfire was in my front yard, which is crazy. And a lot of people with their contacts having some issues and breathing issues and stuff on top of wearing a mask. Yeah. So, but things seem to be better now. Or improving anyway.
Well, I apologize for my ill-timed joke, everybody.
No, don't apologize at all, man. It's very legit. It's very legit. Any other time of the year, it's an appropriate question. Yeah.
Perfect. Well, again, everybody, you can pre-order the book right now, but it is available on September 15th. And in fact, this is great. This is how helpful Amazon is. I started typing what's your and the first thing that pops up is what's your and John Garrett. So Amazon knows that you're supposed to order the book, and you can pre-order it, the hard copy, which is like what I did, or you can also get it on the Kindle version. Where else can they find What's Your And, John?
Yeah, just what'syourand.com. I mean, that's where the podcast is. It's where the book info is. And yeah, absolutely. And then after the 15th, it'll be on Barnes & Noble. It'll be on Indigo in Canada. It'll be on wherever books are sold. It's there's so many websites out there. It's crazy. So yeah, but I'm excited. Pre-order though. Then you'll get it mailed right away. And if you do the ebook, you'll get it on the morning of the 15th. And then there we go. And leave a review. Those really matter. Please, leave a review. And if it's 1 star, then leave it on a different book. But if you like the book, then leave a review.
if it's 1 star, leave it on like a Idiot's Guide to Atheism or something.
There you go. Perfect. I didn't even know if that's a book, but it should be.
Never mind. We're not going to tiptoe down that road. But he's John Garrett. The name of the book, again, What's Your And? Pre-order it on Amazon. You will be able to find my review by the time you can see and hear this conversation, be it on YouTube or any of your favorite podcast platforms. My verified review, courtesy of Amazon. John, again, thank you so much for taking time, because I know it's a Saturday night, and not for nothing. Not that
I appreciate it, man.
It's so
fun to catch up.
But yes, I apologize for taking you away from more important people in your life.
No, it's all good. It's fun to catch up, and I just appreciated you having me on the show, man. Nerds United. It's not every day you get that offer, so thank you.
I mean,
normally it's like nerds segregated and fighting. So it's like, no, Nerds United. And that's where I belong, because I am right there with you guys. Absolutely.
Nerds segregating and fighting is every comment section on every Marvel, DC, or Star Wars post you'll find on the internet. Because That's why, see, we're united. We're just bringing people together and keeping them all happy. And we're in it for the long haul. So, again, thank you, John.
And the book's message is celebrate your nerddom. Celebrate it. Bring it to work. Like, it doesn't, because there's other nerds there that you can relate to and you can make a connection with. So that works.
I have at my job worn my Autobots, Captain America, and Green Lantern cufflinks, and every day they're the talk of the office until 9:05 when somebody else walks in.
Right. That's awesome, man. I love it. Something small like that. It's such a great way to let people know that's something that you care about, and that's such a simple way. That's
so
easy.
Again, Nerds United, jitterymonkey.com, and all your favorite podcast platforms. If you like what we're doing here on YouTube, hit that subscribe button, hit the bell for the notifications, leave a comment, tell anybody about Nerds United, because Nerds United has been around for 7 years plus, and we're still a grassroots effort because our name's not Chris Hardwick. Our name's not even John Garrett.
Well, now it is. It is now. So there you go. That's awesome. No, but thank you so much, Greg. I really appreciate you having me on. Thanks, man.
You remember Blockbuster Video back in the day?
Sure.
We always end all of our podcasts and YouTube shows with the 3 special words, 3 magic words at the end of that you find on any cassette tape. So if I say the first 2, will you do the honors and finish up the last one? Absolutely. Be kind.
Rewind. There it is.
And now we walk away without pants on, right?
Right. Exactly.